Ever since my husband's adopted younger sister returned from abroad, my husband and my son started playing a strange game, coming up with every possible way to provoke me. Dad, I haven't finished my homework yet, but I want to go to the park right now. If Mom won't let me go, what should I do? You know that yellow vase Mom likes the most? Break that one. She'll definitely get angry, and once she's angry, she won't care about you anymore. Then Dad can take you to the park. I was holding my laptop, working, when I heard the conversation between father and son outside the room. My fingers froze above the enter key. For a long moment, I couldn't pull myself together, leaving a large blank space in the document. The next second, the door was pushed open. My son walked in with an arrogant swagger, heading straight toward that special yellow vase. I let out a quiet sigh and suddenly realized that over the past few years, I had poured too much emotion into the two of them, so much that they had forgotten what kind of person I used to be. I looked straight into my son Lam Tu Huyan's eyes. If you dare break that vase, you're dead. After hearing me say that, his eyes filled with the unmistakable defiance unique to children, he raised his hand and swept my beloved vase to the ground. Crack. The sound was sharp and brittle. His voice was full of provocation. So what, Mom? You're really mad now, right? At 11 o'clock that night, the sound of a child's sobbing echoed from Lam Tu Huyan's bedroom. I sat on the living room sofa, scrolling through my phone indifferently, pretending not to hear anything. Between a soft persimmon and a hard persimmon, the boy chose the frozen one. I admired his courage, to allow himself to be used as someone else's tool, but I utterly despised his weakness when it came time to bear the consequences. Lam Hao Vu paced back and forth in front of me, hearing the crying from the room. He finally couldn't hold back anymore. Kai Ha, it's already 11, isn't this enough? Who makes a child copy homework until midnight? What if he gets too tired? I didn't even bother to look up. I warned him. He didn't listen. He broke my favorite vase right in front of me. This punishment is necessary. He's only 5 years old. When you were his age, if you didn't listen to your parents, did they really punish you like this? This was just a joke. Why are you taking it so seriously? I let out a cold laugh. Just a joke? Your joke was teaching him to disobey me, his mother. This time he dared to break a vase worth several million. Next time, will he dare to burn the house down in front of me? I lifted my head and looked straight at Lam Hao Vu standing in front of me. Just like you, this time you dared to take another woman to the park. Next time, you'll dare to take her to a hotel. His face flushed red with anger. Ha Kai Ha, what nonsense are you talking about? Before he could say anything else, the doorbell rang. I raised an eyebrow and nodded toward the door with my chin. Am I talking nonsense? Go open the door and you'll see. Lam Hao Vu shot me a glare and went to open the door. What's wrong with Tu Huyan? As soon as the door opened, a beautiful figure threw herself straight into Lam Hao Vu's arms, her voice full of concern. Lam Van Van, the adopted daughter of the Lam family, just returned from overseas. She is my husband Lam Hao Vu's sworn younger sister. Lam Hao Vu didn't seem to notice anything inappropriate about the excessive intimacy between the two siblings. He even reached out to support her arm, then turned back and glared at me. It's all her fault. Tu Huyan only broke a vase, and she made the child copy punishment lines until midnight, like he isn't even her biological son. Sister-in-law, you've really gone too far. Lam Van Van didn't treat herself as an outsider at all. After throwing out that sentence, she immediately rushed into Lam Tu Huyan's room. The aunt and nephew whispered inside for a long time. I didn't know what Lam Van Van said to the boy, but eventually he came out holding her hand. I glanced at him. Have you finished copying? Lam Tu Huyan trembled in fear, but Lam Van Van immediately sat down, gently patting his back in encouragement. Say whatever you want, I'm here, don't be afraid. Encouraged by her, Lam Tu Huyan's eyes shifted from fear to determination. I don't want to copy. I want to go to the park. I want ice cream. I want to play on the iPad. Mom is a bad mom. I hate mom. I don't need mom anymore. I want dad and aunt to be with me. Mom, get out. I looked at my son coldly. Say that again to me. Oh, come on, sister-in-law, who teaches a child like this? Look at his hands. They're swollen already. Shut up. This is not your place to speak. I cut off Lam Van Van sharply. Instead of stopping things, it triggered an intense reaction from Lam Hao Vu standing beside her. Ha Kai Ha, watch your language. How can you talk to Van Van like that? I glanced at him. Lam Hao Vu, I can still talk civilly right now. You'd better shut up too. Then I turned my gaze back to Lam Tu Huyen. You just said you don't need me anymore and want to stay with your aunt. Right? Lam Tu Huyen, I'm asking you one last time. Between me and your aunt, who do you choose? It was the first time the boy had ever heard me speak to him with such an attitude. He was so scared that he panicked and instinctively looked up at Lam Van Van. After a long moment, as if receiving some kind of strength from her, he glared at me with hostility. What do I want? You always control me. I hate you. I took out my phone and dialed a number. Your son and grandson have said they don't need me anymore. I plan to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow with him to file for divorce. Lam Hao Vu lunged forward, trying to grab my phone. I slapped him across the face without hesitation. Smack. He covered his face in fury, teeth clenched. Ha Kai Ha, what exactly are you trying to do? It's the middle of the night, and you're dragging my parents into this. Are you crazy? I looked at him with interest. You can be crazy too. Don't you have a phone? You can call my parents. Lam Hao Vu faltered, seeing that I was truly furious. Lam Tu Huyen burst into tears, but still didn't apologize. Instead, he wrapped his arms tightly around Lam Van Van's neck. Look, this is the good son I gave birth to. Lam Hao Vu, you must talk badly about me in front of him all the time. Don't you? What nonsense are you talking about? The veins on Lam Hao Vu's forehead bulged. You didn't teach the child well, and now you want to blame me? I couldn't be bothered to argue with him anymore. An awkward silence fell over the house. Only Lam Tu Huyen's crying echoed through the vast villa. Outside the window, the night was pitch black. Headlights flashed on. My parents-in-law's car stopped at the door. What's going on? Why are you fighting all of a sudden? My mother-in-law looked straight at Lam Hao Vu as soon as she entered. He immediately pointed at me. Ask her. Who knows what kind of crazy episode she's having tonight? I got straight to the point, leaving no room for anyone's dignity. Your son has developed feelings for your adopted daughter, and your good daughter has encouraged my son to abandon me. Are you planning to set them up? My father-in-law's first reaction was to glare furiously at his son and adopted daughter. My mother-in-law, however, gently took my hand. Good child, they're siblings. How could something like that happen? In this world, nothing is impossible, but since you say it's impossible, then I'll give them a chance to prove their innocence. I took out my phone, turned on video recording, and aimed the camera at the two people standing in front of me. You two swear it yourselves, that you are only siblings, and that for the rest of your lives, there will never be the slightest transgression. Don't just stand there, kneel down and say it. The Ha family and the Lam family were united through a marriage alliance. The reason I married Lam Hao Vu, aside from the alliance between the two families, was simply that I didn't dislike him as a person. In modern times, something called love is already a luxury. Marrying first and falling in love later with a man I didn't find repulsive was not something I found hard to accept. After the marriage, I didn't want to live a cold, indifferent life, so I tried my best to make myself love Lam Hao Vu. The truth was, in the marriage that followed, I really did fall in love with this man, especially after giving birth to Lam Tu Huyen. I even shifted the focus of my life from work to the two of them. I stopped caring so much about gains and losses in contracts. Instead, I felt genuine happiness from the bottom of my heart just by cooking them a good meal. I was no longer accustomed to a rigid, high-pressure life or work that kept me constantly on edge. Instead, every morning I woke up craving Lam Hao Vu's embrace and gentleness. People always say that in love, the one who takes the initiative is the one who ends up inferior. I don't even know when it started, but I willingly sank into that feeling. I once thought that Lam Hao Vu and I could face the same direction. Cross every abyss and crevice together. Hold hands and walk through the rest of our lives. Raise our child to adulthood. And then grow old side by side. But the return of his adopted younger sister, Lam Van Van, completely stripped away the last place where my humility could hide. The number of times he worked overtime at the company kept increasing. And the social engagements over drinking tables grew more frequent. The sweetness and attentiveness between husband and wife gradually became perfunctory. Until 3 months ago, when he suddenly suggested sleeping separately and moved alone into the guest bedroom. Only then did I discover the real reason behind his sudden obsession with overtime. Lam Van Van had been arranged into the Lam Corporation and became the personal secretary to him. The CEO. At those business dinners, Lam Van Van was almost never absent. As for sleeping separately, he claimed it was to maintain a proper distance between husband and wife to preserve novelty. But the late-night phone calls coming from the guest bedroom made it impossible for me not to grow suspicious. Was this married man really saving himself for someone else? The frequency with which the name Lam Van Van appeared in his mouth grew higher and higher. Hearing it so often, I even began to hallucinate. She sounded like a flawless, perfect woman. She was so perfect that Lam Hao Vu had nearly deified her. Even my son began to grow closer and closer to Lam Van Van. Gradually, he obeyed me on the surface, but resisted me inside. A child's love and hatred are always simple and direct. He liked Lam Van Van because she didn't care whether he had a weak stomach and was willing to let him eat ice cream to his heart's content. She didn't care whether he had made mistakes or finished his homework. And she even asked the kindergarten for leave on his behalf, taking him to the park to play wildly all day. But when his gastritis flared up or when report cards filled with failing grades were sent home, Lam Van Van would disappear beautifully, leaving Lam Hao Vu to dump all the mess she created onto my head. At first, I thought she simply lacked experience in caring for children. It wasn't until today, when I overheard the conversation between father and son and saw that ambiguous, suspicious embrace between those so-called siblings, that I finally woke up. Our marriage, at its core, had always been nothing more than a calculated chess game to him. He openly used a marriage alliance to exchange for cooperative benefits, while I stupidly used a move called love to prop up those fragile chess pieces named, "He loves me." Looking back now, this business merger disguised as love ultimately became nothing more than that brocade robe full of lice described in Eileen Chang's writing. After I finished speaking, Lam Hao Vu immediately exploded in anger. "Ha Kai Ha, are you sick? If you're sick, go see a doctor. Why are you having an episode in front of my parents?" I looked at him calmly and said nothing. "Oh, so I guessed right?" Lam Hao Vu cursed on the spot. "Bullshit. What is Van Van to Tu Huyen? She's my parents' daughter. Can you stop talking nonsense here?" "Oh, what is she? Also your parents' daughter?" I laughed mockingly at him. "Husband, you're deliberately avoiding the words, younger sister. The more you try to cover it up, the more obvious it becomes. There's no silver here, yet you keep insisting there are 300 tails buried underneath. Are you trying to indirectly admit that there's something ambiguous between the two of you? You don't really think I made them kneel just because they're unclear, do you?" My mother-in-law looked at me in confusion. "Is there something else?" I raised my hand and pointed at Lam Tu Huyen, who was being tightly held in Lam Van Van's arms. A father encouraging his own son to disobey his mother, even using his own child as a chess piece and deliberately pitting him against me right in front of my face. "And as for what you've done, it's even more outrageous. Every day, you either take the child out to play recklessly or feed him things he shouldn't eat. Is this something someone who truly cares about a child would do?" I looked straight into Lam Hao Vu's eyes. Or should I say it this way, The two of you have been using the child as a shield to create opportunities for your private meetings. You're slandering me. Lam Van Van's eyes reddened, shimmering with tears as she looked at me pitifully. There is absolutely nothing between my brother and me. Don't fabricate stories here. Children being mischievous is normal. Tu Huyen only broke a vase. Yet you bit down on it and forced him to copy punishment lines until late at night. He's only 5 years old, do you know that? You're clearly venting your anger on your own child. I turned to look at Lam Hao Vu. Your good little sister says I'm venting my anger on the child. Then you explain clearly to your parents what your precious son did today under your instructions. I already explained it to you. It was just a joke. Can you stop making such a big deal out of everything? Clinging to such a small matter, is it really that fun for you? My father-in-law's stern gaze swept over him. What exactly did you say to the child? Seeing his father begin to get angry, Lam Hao Vu stammered and couldn't bring himself to admit that he had used his own son as a tool. My father-in-law walked up to Lam Van Van, pulled Lam Tu Huyen out of her arms, then smiled gently and placed a hand on his grandson's shoulder. Tu Huyen, be good. Tell Grandpa what your dad said today that made your mom so unhappy. If you tell the truth, Grandpa will always like you. But if you lie, from now on Grandpa won't buy you toys or candy anymore. And you won't be allowed to play on the iPad either. For a 5-year-old child, those things were almost all the joy life had to offer. So Lam Tu Huyen surrendered immediately. I said I wanted to go to the park. But because I hadn't finished my homework, Mom wouldn't let me go. Dad said as long as I made Mom angry and upset her, she wouldn't care about me anymore. Then Dad could take me to find Aunt and go to the park together. Grandpa's mouth was still smiling, but there was no warmth left in his eyes. And then? Then I listened to Dad and broke the yellow vase Mom liked the most. After all, he was only a 5-year-old child. Lam Tu Huyen didn't know how to read the situation. Seeing that Grandpa still looked gentle, he thought he had found a protector and immediately grabbed his hand to accuse me. Grandpa, I really hate Mom. She makes me study all the time and never lets me play. I don't like Mom. Grandpa, kick Mom out and let Aunt be my mom. Only Aunt really loves me. Tell Dad to marry Aunt. My father-in-law's face twisted with fury. Oh, and why do you say Aunt loves you? Aunt asked the kindergarten for leave for me and took me to the park. She bought me lots of ice cream and downloaded lots of games on the iPad. Growing more excited as he spoke, Lam Tu Huyen even raised his hand. Grandpa, you don't know, Aunt bought me so much ice cream and said I could eat as much as I wanted. She also said Mom doesn't actually love me. I think Aunt is right. Grandpa, help me kick Mom out. I don't like Mom. Dad said whoever he marries will be my mom. Grandpa, tell Dad to marry Aunt. I looked at the son I had given birth to myself and suddenly felt hollow inside. The warmth that had always filled me as a mother now felt like sand slipping endlessly from a shattered hourglass. Enough. This was the first time since Lam Tu Huyen was born that his grandfather had been so furious. He shouted, scaring the boy into tears. My father-in-law's furious gaze landed on the adopted daughter. Did you say those things to the child? Lam Van Van stammered in fear. I didn't. I never said those things. Lam Hao Vu immediately stepped forward to shield her. Dad, children talk nonsense all the time. How can you take it seriously? He's only 5, does he even know how to lie? My mother-in-law snapped back angrily. Enough, all of you, stop acting, don't you feel ashamed? I stood up and looked straight at the Lam family. I've seen enough of this farce. I won't beat around the bush anymore. Lam Hao Vu, I want a divorce. For the first time, panic finally showed on Lam Hao Vu's face. Kai Ha, listen to me. I raised my hand to stop him. I don't want to hear your explanation. And the cooperation between the Ha family and the Lam family, I want that terminated as well. I looked straight at him. Lam Hao Vu, if you want me not to cancel the partnership, it's simple. I pointed at Lam Van Van standing behind him. Within 2 minutes, break 2 of her teeth. If you do, the Ha family will continue cooperating with the Lam family. Otherwise, bear the consequences yourself. The moment my words fell, my mother-in-law's previously furious expression immediately turned gentle and conciliatory. She stepped forward and grabbed my hand. Kai Ha, we're all family. Why say such hurtful things? Van Van only did it because she cares about Tu Huyen. She had no bad intentions. You're her sister-in-law. If you're really angry, let me apologize to you on her behalf. All right? As she spoke, she began to sink to her knees. Intending to kneel, she had always been like this. Whenever something happened, she rushed to admit fault, playing the victim to make others feel guilty and soften their hearts. I could only blame myself for being too soft in the past. Now, I was far too familiar with her tactics. I helped her up and glanced at my phone. Mom, what fault do you have? I'm the one in the way. If it weren't for me, your son and your adopted daughter might already be on their second child by now. There are still 1 minute and 31 seconds left. It seems your son really does love that adopted daughter. Back then, why didn't you just let them be together? The Lam family is so wealthy, did you really need to covet the Ha family's resources that badly? My mother-in-law was left so humiliated by my words that she couldn't even lift her head. She shot an angry glare at her son and adopted daughter, yet still shamelessly clutched my hand tightly. Kai Ha, listen to Mom, it's not what you think. You misunderstood. Misunderstood? I gently but firmly pried her hand off mine. What exactly did I misunderstand? Didn't your son encourage my son to disobey his own mother? Didn't your precious adopted daughter completely disregard her nephew's health and indulge him so excessively that she was practically trying to ruin him? I glanced at my phone again. Lam Hao Vu, 30 seconds left. You still haven't done anything? Ha Kai Ha, have you made enough trouble? Lam Hao Vu finally snapped. From the start, you've been smearing me and Van Van. Van Van is my sister. What exactly do you want? Sister? I smiled faintly. Fine, I'll give you a chance to prove it yourselves. Stand here right now and swear that for the rest of your lives, there will never be feelings beyond familial affection between you two. I'll record it as evidence. Do you dare? Can you be rational for once? Family matters are family matters. Business is business. Just because of such a small issue, you want to destroy the cooperation between two families? Has your brain been kicked by a donkey? I glanced at my phone one last time. Good, time's up. I picked up my bag, shoved Lam Hao Vu aside, and strode out with my documents. See you tomorrow at the Civil Affairs Bureau. If you don't show up, don't come back. Bang. Ha Kai Ha. I turned around and saw Lam Hao Vu trying to chase after me, only to be held back by Lam Van Van. The two of them couldn't even be bothered to pretend anymore. Lam Tu Huyen raised his little fist and shouted, "Go away, Mom, you're a bad mom, I don't need you anymore. I want to live with Aunt. Aunt is 100 times better than you." At that moment, I suddenly felt that there was nothing left to hold on to. I pointed at Lam Tu Huyen and looked at his father. I don't want this child anymore either. You take custody, let your good adopted sister be his stepmother. After saying that, I opened the villa door and slammed it shut behind me. The next morning, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and waited until noon without seeing even a trace of Lam Hao Vu. I called him, but the moment the call connected, he hung up. I only received a text message, "I'm reflecting on things. If you're done being angry, come home. Tonight the three of us can go watch a movie. Van Van already booked the tickets." I immediately typed back, "Lam Hao Vu, bring your documents to the Civil Affairs Bureau right now. I'm not in the mood to joke with you." The message was sent, but there was no reply, as if it had fallen into a bottomless black hole. I called again, only to find his phone was powered off. Fuming, I went back home. The moment I walked in, I received another message from him. "Let's forget about yesterday. Another day I'll take you to an auction house and pick a vintage vase you like as a gift." I called him again, still powered off. All day long, Lam Hao Vu tortured me with a Cold War, occasionally sending a few mundane life updates or a line of casual concern. Then immediately turning off his phone after sending them, afraid I might call back. Even at this point, he was still naive enough to believe that the silent treatment would work. I messaged him back, "My patience is limited. I'll give you one last chance. Tomorrow, bring your documents and come with me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize the divorce. If you don't blame me for showing no regard for our marriage." Half an hour later, he replied, "Dinner tonight at the newly opened couples restaurant. If we don't meet, we won't leave." I laughed out loud when I saw the message. So this is what happens when people are so at a loss that they don't know how to respond. They really do laugh. I called my secretary and instructed her to notify all department heads, meeting in 30 minutes to discuss the termination of all further cooperation with the Lam Group. An hour later, the Ha Group officially announced the termination of all cooperation with the Lam Group, the suspension of all ongoing projects, and the cancellation of all future plans. I had known from the beginning that when Lam Hao Vu's parents proposed a marriage alliance with my family, they had ulterior motives. After all, at the time, the Lam family's annual revenue was only 1/10 of the Ha family's. To elevate Lam Corporation, Lam Hao Vu took advantage of one time when I was drunk, spread rumors that he had taken me home, and seized the opportunity to sign a cooperation contract, using it as proof to reinforce those rumors. I didn't dislike Lam Hao Vu. After all, marrying anyone is still marriage, and marrying someone you don't resent is already fortunate. So I didn't interfere with the rumors the Lam family deliberately amplified, allowing them to smoothly propose the alliance. It wasn't that I knew nothing about Lam Van Van. I also knew that when the rumors between Lam Hao Vu and me spread back then, the Lam family almost forced her to go abroad. At the time, I assumed it was because she didn't want to study overseas or for other reasons. And I didn't investigate deeply. It wasn't until she returned this time, with all her suspicious behavior toward Lam Hao Vu, that I realized her being forced abroad back then might also have been related to the relationship between these two non-blood related siblings. The Lam family's thinking wasn't hard to guess. I had been Lam Hao Vu's legal wife for 6 years, and our son was already 5. In that situation, they believed I wouldn't dare divorce just because of an ambiguous relationship between adopted siblings. So when I openly exposed everything, my parents-in-law, even though they appeared angry, didn't truly stop it, didn't intend to punish Lam Hao Vu, and certainly had no intention of sending Lam Van Van away again. They only advised me to be generous and not let such a small matter affect the child. They thought I would be bound by a child. Unfortunately for them, they miscalculated. Lam Van Van was even more foolish. She secretly bought over her nephew behind her adoptive parents' backs. Because the child wasn't hers, she felt no pity, even if the boy fell ill. She was confident she could push all the blame onto me, destroying my marriage with Lam Hao Vu while clearing the way for her future child with him. 2 birds with 1 stone. What she didn't expect was my decisiveness. If a child is destined to become ungrateful, why should I pour my heart into raising him just so he can ruin my life? Now that I had abandoned even the child, the last remaining tie to the Lam family, and swiftly severed all business relations, the Lam family truly began to panic. That same afternoon, right after the Ha Group issued the termination announcement, Lam Hao Vu finally called me. "Ha Kai Ha, are you serious?" His voice on the phone was no longer gentle, but cold and rigid like a stone tabletop. "I gave you all a chance. You didn't cherish it. You were the ones who didn't treat me as family. Since you never considered me one of your own, why should I care about the Lam family's feelings?" Lam Hao Vu practically went insane. "Ha Kai Ha, do you have any sense at all? There's nothing between Van Van and me. I only see her as a real sister, at most we're a bit close. And you have to be jealous over that? Besides, Tu Huyen is already 5. You're his mother, can you stop acting like a child?" There it was, just as I expected. He dragged the child out to manipulate my emotions. Barely a few sentences in, and the child became his shield again. Lam Hao Vu, your son only recognizes the woman who wants to be his stepmother now. If a child doesn't even acknowledge his biological mother, why should I value him? Ha Kai Ha, are you crazy? He's your biological son. Are you really going to abandon him? I replied calmly. Lam Hao Vu, I'll say this one last time. I want a divorce. I will give up custody of Lam Tu Huyan. You can refuse to go through the procedures with me, but you know very well what the consequences will be. After that, I hung up directly and sent him several photos. His phone immediately rang back, but I ruthlessly turned it off. With no other choice, he could only text, "Where did you get these?" The photos were all of him and Lam Van Van in ambiguous situations. Though there was no evidence of crossing the final line, the hugs, the face-caressing gestures, and the gazes so affectionate they made dogs look at feces with less devotion were more than enough to spark ugly associations. Siblings who didn't know how to maintain boundaries being photographed like this, it was hardly surprising. I'll give you one night to think it over. If you don't appear at the Civil Affairs Bureau by 9 a.m. tomorrow, these photos will be on the front pages of the business and entertainment sections. Ha Kai Ha, I'm your husband. If you do this, you'll destroy Tu Huyan. Are you even worthy of being a mother? When you taught him to disobey me, did you ever think about being his father? Didn't it occur to you that you were harming your own son? Stop talking nonsense. If you're not at the Civil Affairs Bureau by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, it won't just be the Lam family losing face, I'll file a lawsuit. And when that happens, the one who loses face definitely won't be me. The next morning, Lam Hao Vu stood obediently at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. His parents were with him. The moment my mother-in-law saw me, she rushed over and grabbed my hand again, just like before. Kai Ha, it's all Mom's fault. I didn't discipline this son properly. If you want to blame someone, blame me, as long as you come back and live properly with Hao Vu. No matter what conditions you raise, Mom will agree. The words sounded sincere, but from beginning to end, they were nothing but empty promises. I decisively pulled my hand away. I already gave you chances. You didn't cherish them, and you even thought I was a soft persimmon easy to bully. And now you regret it? It's too late. My father-in-law also stepped forward to smooth things over. Kai Ha, we know you're angry. If you're angry, then let it out. You can hit him if you want. Scold him if you want. As long as you calm down and stay seated, you can deal with him however you like. As long as the two of you continue living together properly, we'll agree to any condition. Really? I asked. Any condition at all? Lam Hao Vu hurriedly nodded. Yes, as long as you don't divorce me, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Fine. I raised 4 fingers. Same condition as that day. You go and knock out the teeth of your precious little sister. But this time, not 2 teeth, 4. I don't care how you do it. As long as you break 4 of her teeth and then send her abroad, never to come back for the rest of her life. I'll go home with you and continue living as your wife. In the end, Lam Hao Vu still obediently went with me to complete the divorce procedures at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Our assets were clearly separated. There was no shared property, so there was no dispute. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, my father-in-law called out to me. Do you still need something? I asked. He looked awkward, hesitated for a long time, then finally spoke. Kai Ha, actually, we've always treated you like our own daughter. I interrupted him. If you don't have anything important to say, I'll be leaving. Seeing that I was completely unmoved, he sighed. Kai Ha, I know the Lam family is in the wrong here, but back then, Van Van's father once saved my life. I promised I would protect that child as if she were my own daughter. What happened between Hao Vu and Van Van, I regret it deeply. But Hao Vu has also said it himself. Feelings are feelings. Business is business. Think about the cooperation between our 2 families. I smiled at him. I think I've made myself very clear already. Your attitude throughout this entire matter has made me extremely angry. From beginning to end, You protected an adopted daughter and treated me, the daughter-in-law who married into your family, as an outsider. That made me deeply uncomfortable. So ending all cooperation is the punishment I've chosen for the Lamb family. Don't talk to me about separating emotions from business. In my eyes, those two things don't need to be cleanly divided. Your son betrayed me emotionally. So it's only natural that I retaliate by taking away what the Lamb family cherishes most. There's no reason for me to swallow such a huge injustice and still consider your interests. I'm not that noble. Even so, since he was an elder, I still politely said goodbye. Goodbye, sir. I hope the next time we meet, it'll be to congratulate you on gaining another grandchild from your precious daughter. There is no wall in this world that keeps out the wind forever. The fallout between the Ha family and the Lamb family eventually spread. The complete termination of cooperation between the two families indirectly confirmed the rumors. So when Lam Van Van asked to meet me, it was precisely when the Lam family had lost the Ha family as their support and was being besieged by competitors on all sides. When I saw her again, she was no longer dressed plainly like an unmarried girl. She wore a kippah and high heels, deliberately styling herself as a mature socialite. Of course I knew what she was implying. So I smiled and asked, "Good news coming soon?" Seeing that I wasn't angry at all and was even teasing her like an old friend. A clear flicker of frustration passed through Lam Van Van's eyes. "Yes, my brother and I are getting married next month. And then we've decided to go on a honeymoon around the world." Inside, I cursed her hypocrisy. The Lam family was surrounded by crisis. Instead of sharing the pressure, she was dragging Lam Hao Vu around the world, as if the Lam family's money just blew in on the wind. "That sounds great," I said lightly. "I never even had a honeymoon before. I still regret it. I really envy you." When she realized my flattery wasn't producing the reaction she wanted, Lam Van Van finally lost her composure. "You know," she said, "I used to admire you. I admired you because you could marry him. But not anymore. Because in the end, he belongs to me." I nodded enthusiastically, fully agreeing. Right. People who are meant to be together will always end up together. To be with him, I waited so many years. Thank you for being willing to give him to me. I waved my hand dismissively. There's no such thing as giving or not giving. He's not a dog with a registration certificate. You managed to keep him because you're capable. As for me, I saw through what kind of trash man he really is. That's why I took the initiative to divorce him. I gently patted Lam Van Van's hand, as if consoling her. So whether or not he knocked out your teeth back then, I was still going to divorce him anyway. Only then did Lam Van Van finally grasp the implication behind my words. "He's not a bad man," she said sharply, "and he would never hit me. For me, he even refused to bow to your threats. To you, he may not be a good man. But to me, he's the only one." "Then why didn't he marry you in the first place?" I asked calmly. She was left speechless, like an Lang Dung suddenly losing her voice, sitting across from me in stunned silence. I stood up and patted her shoulder. "Congratulations in advance, lovers finally becoming brother and sister." The wedding of Lam Hao Vu and Lam Van Van drew endless gossip. Many people attended just for the spectacle. Wherever you go, the story of a brother marrying his sister is always irresistible, even though they were only siblings in name, with no blood relation. The moment the wedding ended, the two of them packed their bags and flew abroad. 1 week after they left the country, the Lam group suddenly encountered a coordinated suppression from multiple competitors. Within days, soaring costs pushed it into crisis. Of course, if anyone said this had nothing to do with me, not even I would believe it. Lam Hao Vu was forced to cut short his honeymoon overseas and rushed back on the earliest flight. But problems like these aren't solved just by coming back. Meanwhile, Lam Van Van, the woman who once doted on Lam Tu Huyen as if holding him like a treasure, finally began to reveal her true nature. When occasional meetings turned into daily cohabitation, the fleeting restraint of the past quickly degenerated into unchecked indulgence and indifference. It wasn't until late one night, When Lam Hao Vu returned home and heard intermittent sobbing coming from his son's room, that he finally realized what had happened after allowing Lam Tu Huyen to treat ice cream and snacks as staple meals under Lam Van Van's careless supervision. Because he had consumed too much cold food, Lam Tu Huyen's chronic gastroenteritis worsened severely, forcing an emergency surgery in which a section of his intestine had to be removed. The family was truly irresponsible. Outside the operating room, the doctor who had just finished the surgery berated all 4 members of the Lam family without pause. There was no justification for letting a child eat so much cold food. The boy's intestines were already blocked. If he had arrived 2 hours later, he might not have survived. Hearing this, Lam Hao Vu, for the first time in his life, slapped Lam Van Van hard across the face. "You're Tu Huyen's stepmother, and this is how you take care of him? I entrusted my child to you so you could harm him?" Lam's parents said nothing, but their eyes were full of reproach as they looked at their adopted daughter. In the hospital room, Lam Tu Huyen lay on the bed in pain, tubes covering his small body. At last, he broke down in regretful tears. "Dad, I miss Mom. Aunt never cares about me at all. When I said I wanted to eat proper meals, she just ordered delivery. I told her Mom said takeout wasn't good for my health and asked her to cook for me. But she scolded me and forbade me from mentioning Mom in front of her. I ranked last in my class this exam, and all my classmates laughed at me. If Mom were still here, I definitely wouldn't have done this badly. Dad, please bring Mom back to me. I want Mom. I don't like her anymore. I don't want her to be my mom." Sometime later, my phone rang. It was a call from Lam Hao Vu. He told me about Lam Tu Huyen's condition. "Tu Huyen is in very bad shape. He's suffering a lot. He keeps saying he misses you. Could you come to the hospital and see him?" I replied calmly, "Sorry, I'm currently abroad resting during my pregnancy. I'm afraid I can't come back. You should just let her take better care of him." On the other end of the line, Lam Hao Vu's voice carried a hint of anger. "Pregnant? Ha kai ha, whose child are you carrying?" I snapped back, "That's none of your business." Half a year later, I gave birth to a lovely baby girl. I don't know who her father is, because she was conceived through a domestic sperm bank. She is my child alone, no troublesome father, no unpleasant ties, and no biased grandparents. When my postpartum recovery ended and I returned to the country, the first thing I heard was news that the Lam family had declared bankruptcy. Having lost the protection of the Ha family and surrounded by too many enemies, the Lam group finally collapsed under its own arrogance and ignorance. The Lam family was buried in debt. Lam's father sold off all assets to repay what he could. Now the family of 4 could only squeeze into an old house in the suburbs. Struggling day by day, the once flamboyant young man, unable to find decent work, was forced to labor in a factory tightening screws for 12-hour shifts. His back bent from exhaustion. Lam's father scavenged bottles on the streets every day. Lam's mother helped sell vegetables at the market for a meager income. Their life had become a calculation down to every cent. As for the adopted sister, Lam Van Van, unwilling to live in such conditions, she secretly became involved with a nouveau riche. But when she went to a hotel with him, his wife caught them in the act. The wife and her bodyguards beat Lam Van Van half to death. She clutched her torn dress and ran out into the street, where a luxury car crashed into her, ending her life on the spot. When Lam Hao Vu learned that I had returned to the country, he called me, crying as he apologized and begged, "Please, for the sake of the bond between mother and child, save Tu Huyen." After all, he was the child I had carried and given birth to. When I learned that Lam Tu Huyen couldn't afford his daily medical expenses and that his condition was worsening, I decided to take him back under my care. I arranged for him to stay at a rehabilitation facility with staff assigned to watch over him. One time when I went to visit him, he lay on the hospital bed, his face pale. When he saw me, a flicker of emotion crossed his face. But when he noticed the baby girl in my arms, his smile froze. "Mom, is she my little sister?" I shook my head. "No, she's not your sister. She has nothing to do with you. I continued calmly. She is the future heir of the Ha Group. She will one day take over the Ha family empire. Tears streamed down his cheeks. Mom, even when I'm already like this, you still won't spare me? I replied coldly. Lam Tu Huyen, I let you stay here only because I still see my blood in you, not because I've forgiven you. From the moment you said you didn't need me anymore, that you only wanted her, you ceased to be my child in my heart. Then I added clearly, but don't worry, I will raise you until you're 18. After that, you will leave the Ha family and have nothing more to do with us. Holding the baby in my arms, I said, you are no longer my child. From now on, you will call me Ms. Ha. Do you understand? Lam Tu Huyen's face turned deathly pale. Yes, I understand, Ms. Ha. Looking at his face, as if all hope had drained from it, at such a young age and already devoid of any motivation to live, I felt not a trace of pity. I turned and walked out of the hospital room, got into the car, and the baby in my arms yawned as if she had just woken up. Her tiny hands waving aimlessly, I offered her my finger, and she immediately grabbed it tightly, as if she were clutching my heart, and as if she were holding the entire world. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to China Story Tales, and stay tuned for more stories.